The art of slowing down, finding your center in a world that never stops. Right now, as you listen to these words, your phone is probably within arm's reach. There might be 17 browser tabs open on your computer, 3 different messaging apps pinging with notifications, and a mental to-do list that grows faster than you can check items off. You're living in a world that demands constant acceleration, where busy has become a badge of honor, and slow feels like a 4-letter word. But what if I told you that the secret to thriving in our fast-paced world isn't learning to go faster, it's learning to go slower? What if the key to productivity, happiness, and inner peace lies not in doing more, but in doing less, with complete presence and intention? Introduction: the speed trap. We live in the age of acceleration. Everything around us moves faster than ever before: our internet connections, our food delivery, our career expectations, even our relationships. We've become addicted to speed, believing that faster automatically means better. But somewhere in this rush toward an ever-accelerating future, we've lost something essential: the ability to be present with ourselves and our lives. The irony is profound. In our quest to save time, we've lost our sense of time. In our effort to be more productive, we've become less effective. In our pursuit of connection through technology, we've disconnected from ourselves. We're running on a treadmill that keeps speeding up, and we can't figure out how to step off without falling. This audiobook is your guide to stepping off that treadmill gracefully. It's about learning the art of slowing down, not as an escape from the modern world, but as a way to engage with it more skillfully, more intentionally, and more joyfully. The practices we'll explore aren't about retreating from life or becoming a monk on a mountaintop. They're about finding your center in the storm, creating pockets of calm in your day, and discovering that when you slow down, you don't fall behind, you move forward with greater clarity, purpose, and effectiveness. Chapter 1: the cost of constant acceleration. Before we learn how to slow down, we need to understand what we're slowing down from. The modern pace of life isn't just fast, it's accelerating. Every year, every month, sometimes every day, the speed of change increases. This isn't your imagination. It's a measurable phenomenon that psychologists call time acceleration. Think about your typical morning. You wake up to an alarm, immediately check your phone for messages that arrived while you slept, scan the news headlines, check your schedule, and before you've even gotten out of bed, your nervous system is already activated. Your day begins in reactive mode, responding to the demands and expectations of others before you've even had a moment to connect with yourself. This pattern continues throughout your day. You're constantly switching between tasks, responding to notifications, making decisions, processing information. Your brain is in a perpetual state of partial attention, never fully present to any one thing, always ready to shift to the next demand on your awareness. The consequences of this lifestyle are more severe than most people realize. Chronic stress from constant acceleration doesn't just make you feel tired, it fundamentally changes your brain. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for executive function and emotional regulation, becomes impaired. The amygdala, your brain's alarm system, becomes hyperactive. You lose your ability to access deeper states of creativity, insight, and calm. But perhaps most importantly, you lose touch with your authentic self. When you're constantly reacting to external demands, you never have the space to ask fundamental questions. What do I actually want? What brings me joy? What kind of person do I want to be? What kind of life do I want to create? The first step in learning to slow down is recognizing that speed isn't always the answer. Sometimes, the fastest way to get where you want to go is to first stop and make sure you're heading in the right direction. Chapter 2: the neuroscience of slowing down. When we talk about slowing down, we're not just talking about moving more slowly through the world. We're talking about fundamentally changing the operating system of your mind. To understand how this works, we need to explore what happens in your brain when you're constantly accelerated versus when you're in a state of calm presence. When you're in chronic acceleration mode, your nervous system is dominated by what's called the sympathetic nervous system, your fight or flight response. This system evolved to help our ancestors deal with immediate physical threats, like being chased by a predator. It's designed to mobilize your body's resources quickly, increase heart rate, sharpen focus, release stress hormones, and prepare for immediate action. The problem is that modern life triggers this system constantly, but in response to emails, deadlines, traffic jams, and social media notifications rather than actual physical threats. Your brain can't distinguish between a charging lion and a charging deadline. Both activate the same stress response. When your sympathetic nervous system is chronically activated, several things happen that make it harder to slow down. Your attention becomes narrow and focused on potential threats, making it difficult to see the bigger picture or access creative solutions. Your time perception becomes distorted, everything feels urgent, and you lose your sense of natural rhythm. Your decision-making becomes impaired as stress hormones interfere with the prefrontal cortex. Your ability to connect with others and with yourself becomes compromised as you're constantly in defensive mode. The alternative is activating your parasympathetic nervous system, often called the rest and digest response. This is the state that allows for healing, creativity, deep thinking, and genuine connection. When your parasympathetic nervous system is active, your heart rate slows, your breathing deepens, your muscles relax, and your mind becomes both calm and alert. This isn't just about feeling better, it's about accessing different capabilities. In parasympathetic mode, you have access to what researchers call diffuse attention, a broader, more creative way of processing information that allows for insight, innovation, and seeing connections that weren't apparent before. The practices we'll explore in this audiobook are all designed to activate your parasympathetic nervous system and train your brain to default to calm alertness rather than anxious reactivity. This isn't about permanently changing your personality, it's about giving yourself choice in how you respond to life's demands. Chapter 3. The Philosophy of Enough. At the heart of our inability to slow down lies a fundamental philosophical confusion. We've forgotten the difference between enough and more. In a culture that equates growth with goodness and more with better, the concept of enough has become almost revolutionary. But enough isn't about settling for less or giving up on your dreams. It's about recognizing that there's a point of diminishing returns in almost every area of life, and that pushing beyond that point often creates more problems than it solves. Consider your relationship with productivity. There's a sweet spot where you're engaged, effective, and energized by your work. Push beyond that point, and you enter the realm of diminishing returns. You're working harder but accomplishing less, making more mistakes, and creating stress that undermines your performance. Yet, our culture often celebrates this type of unsustainable overwork as dedication or ambition. The same principle applies to information consumption. There's a point where staying informed becomes valuable, but there's also a point where additional information creates anxiety and confusion rather than clarity. In our hyper-connected world, we've largely lost the ability to recognize when we have enough information to make good decisions. It applies to social connections as well. There's immense value in meaningful relationships, but trying to maintain surface-level connections with hundreds of people through social media often leaves us feeling more isolated than if we focused on deeper connections with fewer people. The philosophy of enough isn't about limitation, it's about optimization. It's about finding the sweet spot in each area of your life, where you have what you need to thrive without the excess that creates stress, distraction, and overwhelm. This shift in perspective is essential for learning to slow down, because it gives you permission to stop the endless pursuit of more. When you know what enough looks like in your life, you can stop running toward an ever-receding horizon and start appreciating where you are right now. The question isn't, how can I do more? But rather, what's truly essential, and how can I do that with full presence and attention? This distinction is the foundation of a slower, more intentional way of living. Chapter 4. The Power of Presence. Before we dive into specific practices like meditation and morning rituals, we need to understand the fundamental skill that underlies all effective, slowing down presence. Presence is the ability to be fully here, in this moment, with whatever is happening right now, without being pulled into the past or future. This might sound simple, but it's actually quite radical. Most of us spend very little time truly present. We're either replaying past events, planning future scenarios, or engaging in what psychologists call mind wandering. That state where your attention drifts from one thought to another without conscious direction. Research suggests that the average person spends about 47% of their waking hours mind wandering, and that this mind wandering is strongly correlated with unhappiness. The more your mind wanders, the less satisfied you feel with your life, regardless of what you're actually doing. Presence is the antidote to this constant mental drift. When you're truly present, several remarkable things happen. Time seems to slow down or even stop. Have you ever been so absorbed in an activity that hours passed like minutes? That's presence. In that state, you're not fighting against time or trying to manage it. You're flowing with it. Your problems become more manageable. Most of our stress comes not from what's actually happening right now, but from our thoughts about what might happen or what has happened. When you're present, you're dealing with reality rather than your anxious projections about reality. Your capacity for joy increases dramatically. Pleasure and satisfaction are only available in the present moment. You can remember pleasant experiences and anticipate future ones, but you can only actually feel joy right now. Your effectiveness increases. When you're fully present to what you're doing, you make fewer mistakes, have better insights, and often accomplish tasks more quickly than when you're multitasking or distracted. Your relationships deepen. The greatest gift you can give another person is your full attention. When you're truly present with someone, they feel seen, heard, and valued in a way that no amount of advice or assistance can match. Presence isn't a state you achieve once and then maintain forever. It's a skill you develop through practice, like building a muscle. Every time you notice your mind has wandered and gently bring your attention back to the present moment, you're strengthening your capacity for presence. This is why meditation is so valuable, because it's mystical or spiritual, but because it's presence training. It's a systematic way to develop your ability to be here, now, with whatever is arising, without being swept away by it. Chapter 5. The Science and Art of Meditation. Meditation might be the most misunderstood practice in our culture. Many people think it's about emptying your mind, achieving some special state of consciousness, or becoming perpetually calm and serene. But meditation is actually much simpler and more practical than that. At its core, meditation is attention training. It's the practice of noticing where your attention goes and gently redirecting it to a chosen focus, usually your breath, but sometimes a word, phrase, or physical sensation. When your mind wanders, and it will, you simply notice that it has wandered and bring it back to your focus. That's it. The magic isn't in achieving some perfect state of concentration. The magic is in the noticing and the returning. Every time you notice that your mind has wandered and bring it back, you're literally rewiring your brain. You're strengthening the neural pathways associated with self-awareness and attention regulation, while weakening the pathways associated with reactivity and mental drift. Modern neuroscience has revealed that regular meditation creates measurable changes in brain structure and function. After just 8 weeks of regular practice, brain scans show increased gray matter in areas associated with learning, memory, and emotional regulation, and decreased gray matter in the amygdala, the brain's fear center. But you don't need to wait 8 weeks to experience benefits. Many people report feeling calmer and more centered after just a few sessions. The immediate benefits come from activating your parasympathetic nervous system, shifting from the stress response to the relaxation response. Let's explore several meditation approaches that are particularly effective for learning to slow down. Breath awareness meditation. This is the foundation of most meditation practices. You simply focus your attention on your breath as it flows in and out. You're not trying to control your breathing, you're just observing it. When your mind wanders to thoughts, plans, or worries, you gently return your attention to your breath. The breath is an ideal meditation object because it's always available, it's happening in the present moment, and it has a naturally calming effect on your nervous system. The rhythm of breathing is intimately connected to your emotional state. When you're stressed, your breathing becomes shallow and rapid. When you're calm, it becomes deeper and slower. Body scan meditation. This practice involves systematically moving your attention through different parts of your body, noticing any sensations, tension, or relaxation. You might start with your toes and gradually work your way up to the top of your head, spending a few moments with each body part. Body scan meditation is particularly effective for people who live primarily in their heads. It helps you reconnect with your physical self and often reveals tension you weren't consciously aware of. As you practice, you'll often find that simply directing attention to tense areas helps them relax naturally. Walking meditation. Not all meditation happens sitting still. Walking meditation involves moving slowly and deliberately while maintaining mindful awareness of the physical sensations of walking. You might focus on the feeling of your feet touching the ground, the movement of your legs, or the rhythm of your steps. Walking meditation is excellent for people who find sitting meditation difficult, and it's a wonderful way to bring mindfulness into daily activities. You can practice walking meditation anywhere in your home, in a park, or even during your commute if you're walking part of the way. Loving kindness meditation. This practice involves cultivating feelings of goodwill and compassion, first toward yourself, then toward loved ones, neutral people, difficult people, and eventually all beings. You might use phrases like, "May I be happy," "May I be healthy," "May I be at peace," and then extend these wishes to others. Loving kindness meditation is particularly valuable for people whose stress comes from difficult relationships or harsh self-criticism. It helps soften the heart and develop the emotional resilience that makes it easier to stay calm in challenging situations. The key to successful meditation isn't finding the perfect technique, it's finding a technique that you'll actually practice consistently. It's better to meditate for 5 minutes every day than for an hour once a week. Consistency trumps duration, especially when you're beginning. Start with just 5 to 10 minutes a day. Set a timer so you don't have to worry about checking the clock. Find a quiet space where you won't be interrupted. Sit comfortably but alertly. You want to be relaxed but not sleepy. Remember that meditation isn't about achieving a particular state or having a particular experience. Some sessions will feel calm and peaceful. Others will feel restless or agitated. Both are valuable. The goal isn't to have a good meditation, but to develop the skill of noticing what's happening in your mind without being controlled by it. As you develop your meditation practice, you'll begin to notice its effects extending beyond your formal practice time. You'll find yourself naturally pausing before reacting to stressful situations. You'll catch yourself getting swept away by anxious thoughts and be able to step back from them. You'll develop what Buddhists call gap awareness, the ability to notice the space between stimulus and response and to choose how you want to respond rather than just reacting automatically. This is how meditation helps you slow down, not by making you move more slowly through the world, but by giving you access to the calm, spacious awareness that allows you to respond to life's challenges with wisdom rather than reactivity. Chapter 6. Crafting your morning ritual. How you begin your day sets the tone for everything that follows. Most people start their day in reactive mode, checking their phone, responding to messages, diving immediately into the demands of their schedule. This creates a pattern of reactivity that persists throughout the day. A morning ritual is different from a morning routine. A routine is a series of habits performed automatically, often while thinking about something else. A ritual is a series of intentional practices performed with presence and awareness, designed to connect you with your deeper values and intentions. Your morning ritual is your opportunity to start the day from a place of centeredness rather than reactivity. It's your chance to remember who you are beneath all the roles you play and responsibilities you carry. It's a way of honoring yourself and setting an intention for how you want to show up in the world. The most effective morning rituals share several common elements: silence and stillness. Before you engage with the external world, you create space for inner listening. This might be through meditation, prayer, journaling, or simply sitting quietly with a cup of tea. The key is creating a buffer between sleep and the demands of the day. Physical care. Your ritual should include some form of caring for your physical body. This might be gentle stretching, yoga, a walk, or even just mindful showering. When you care for your body with attention and appreciation, you're reinforcing the connection between mind and body that stress tends to fragment. Intention setting. Rather than jumping directly into your to-do list, you take time to connect with your deeper intentions. What kind of day do you want to have? How do you want to show up in your relationships? What qualities do you want to embody? Gratitude. Research consistently shows that gratitude practices improve mood, reduce stress, and increase life satisfaction. Taking time to acknowledge what you're grateful for, even in the midst of challenges, helps shift your default mental state from scarcity to abundance. Learning or growth. Many effective morning rituals include some element of learning or personal growth: reading something inspiring, listening to a podcast, or practicing a skill. This reinforces your identity as someone who is constantly growing and evolving, rather than just maintaining the status quo. Here's a sample morning ritual that you can adapt to your own preferences and schedule. Wake up. Without immediately checking your phone, 5 minutes. Instead of reaching for your phone the moment you wake up, take a few minutes to simply be present with the transition from sleep to waking. Notice how your body feels. Take a few deep breaths and set an intention to start your day with awareness rather than reactivity. Mindful movement, 10-15 minutes. This could be gentle stretching, yoga, tai chi, or even just walking around your home. The key is to move your body with attention and appreciation, rather than rushing through movements while thinking about your schedule. Meditation or stillness, 10-20 minutes. Practice one of the meditation techniques we discussed earlier, or simply sit quietly and observe your thoughts and feelings without judgment. This creates a foundation of calm awareness that you can return to throughout the day. Journaling, 5-10 minutes. Write 3 pages of stream of consciousness thoughts, as suggested in Julia Cameron's Morning Pages, or focus on specific prompts like, what am I grateful for today? And what are my intentions for today? Journaling helps process emotions and clarify thoughts. Reading or learning, 10-15 minutes. Read something inspiring, educational, or growth-oriented. This could be philosophy, poetry, personal development, or anything that feeds your mind and spirit rather than just providing information or entertainment. Intention setting, 2-5 minutes. Before you engage with your schedule, take a moment to connect with your deeper intentions for the day. How do you want to show up? What kind of energy do you want to bring to your interactions? What would make this day feel meaningful and fulfilling? The total time commitment for this ritual is 45-70 minutes, but you can adapt it to fit your schedule. Even a 15-20 minute morning ritual can have profound effects if practiced consistently. The key is to protect this time fiercely. Your morning ritual isn't selfish, it's essential. When you start your day from a place of centeredness, you're more present in your relationships, more effective in your work, and more resilient in the face of challenges. You're giving the world the best version of yourself, rather than a stressed, reactive version. Some people worry that they don't have time for a morning ritual, but this is usually a misunderstanding of how time works. When you start your day with intention and presence, you're actually more efficient and effective throughout the day. You make better decisions, waste less time on unimportant activities, and have more energy for what truly matters. Your morning ritual is also your daily practice of slowing down. In a world that demands immediate response and constant availability, creating this space of intentional slowness is both a radical act and a practical strategy for thriving in a fast-paced world. Chapter 7: The Rhythm of Rest. One of the most counterintuitive insights about slowing down is that rest isn't the opposite of productivity. It's the foundation of sustainable productivity. In our achievement-oriented culture, we often treat rest as something we earn after we've accomplished enough, or as a luxury we can afford only when everything else is done. But this perspective gets the relationship backward. Rest isn't what you do when your work is finished. Rest is what makes your work possible. Just as muscles need recovery time between workouts to grow stronger, your mind needs rest periods to maintain clarity, creativity, and resilience. There are different types of rest, and each serves a different function. Physical rest. This includes sleep, of course, but also includes periods of physical stillness during the day. Your body is constantly working, your heart beating, your lungs breathing, your digestive system processing food. Periods of physical rest allow these systems to operate more efficiently and repair any damage from daily stress. Mental rest. Your brain processes an enormous amount of information every day. Mental rest involves giving your cognitive faculties a break from problem-solving, decision-making, and information processing. This might involve meditation, spending time in nature, or engaging in simple, repetitive activities like walking or knitting. Emotional rest. Emotional rest involves taking a break from intense feelings or emotionally demanding situations. This doesn't mean avoiding all emotions, but rather creating space to process and integrate emotional experiences without constantly generating new ones. Social rest. Even the most extroverted people need periods of solitude to recharge. Social rest involves stepping back from the demands of interpersonal interaction and simply being with yourself without the need to perform, please, or engage with others. Sensory rest. In our hyper-connected world, we're constantly bombarded with sensory input sounds, lights, images, textures. Sensory rest involves reducing this input and allowing your nervous system to settle into a calmer state. Spiritual rest. This involves connecting with something larger than your immediate concerns, whether you call it God, nature, the universe, or simply the mystery of existence. Spiritual rest provides perspective and helps you remember that your daily stresses are part of a much larger tapestry. The art of incorporating rest into a busy life isn't about taking long vacations, though those are valuable too. It's about weaving micro moments of rest throughout your day. Here are some practical strategies. The 2-minute reset. Between tasks or meetings, take 2 minutes to simply breathe deeply and reset your nervous system. Step away from your computer, look out a window, or just sit quietly. This brief pause can prevent the accumulation of stress and help you approach your next task with fresh energy. Transitional breathing. When moving from one activity to another, take 3 conscious breaths. This helps you shift gears mentally and emotionally rather than carrying the energy of one task into the next. Single tasking. Instead of trying to do multiple things at once, focus on one task at a time. This is actually a form of mental rest because it reduces cognitive load and allows you to engage more fully with what you're doing. Nature breaks. Even brief exposure to nature, looking at trees through a window, stepping outside, or even looking at nature photo scan, activate your parasympathetic nervous system and provide mental rest. Digital Sabbaths. Designate specific periods, an hour, an afternoon, or a full day, where you disconnect from digital devices. This provides rest for your nervous system and creates space for deeper thinking and genuine connection. Monotasking meals. Instead of eating while working, checking your phone, or watching TV, occasionally eat a meal with complete attention to the food and the experience of eating. This provides both sensory rest and digestive benefits. The key insight about rest is that it's not passive. It's an active practice of restoring your capacity to engage fully with life. When you rest skillfully, you're not avoiding life. You're preparing to meet life with greater presence, creativity, and resilience. Learning to rest is actually learning to trust. It's learning to trust that the world will continue to function if you step back for a moment, that your worth isn't dependent on your constant productivity, and that taking care of yourself is a prerequisite for taking care of others. Chapter 8: The Practice of Deep Listening. In our hurried world, we've largely lost the art of deep listening both to others and to ourselves. We're so focused on formulating our response that we miss what's actually being communicated. We're so busy managing our external lives that we rarely pause to listen to our inner wisdom. Deep listening is one of the most powerful ways to slow down because it requires presence. You can't truly listen while simultaneously planning your response, checking your phone, or thinking about your to-do list. Listening demands that you be here, now, with full attention. Listening to others. Most of what we call listening is actually waiting for our turn to speak. We're formulating our response, judging what we're hearing, or thinking about how the conversation relates to our own experience. True listening is different. It's creating space for another person's experience without immediately trying to fix, judge, or relate it to yourself. When you listen deeply to another person, several things happen. First, they feel truly seen and heard, which is one of the most healing experiences humans can have. Second, you often learn something new, even from people you've known for years. Third, you develop your capacity for presence, which benefits every area of your life. Deep listening to others is a practice you can develop. Start by setting an intention to listen without responding for the first few minutes of a conversation. Notice your impulse to interrupt or share your own experience, but don't act on it immediately. Ask clarifying questions that show you're truly engaged with understanding their perspective. Listening to yourself, this is perhaps even more challenging in our noisy world. Your inner wisdom is constantly trying to communicate with you through intuition, body sensations, emotions, and subtle knowing. But this inner voice is quiet and easily drowned out by external demands and mental chatter. Learning to listen to yourself requires creating regular periods of quiet, not just the absence of external noise, but the absence of mental noise. This is why meditation is so valuable. It's not about achieving some special state. It's about creating space to hear what your deeper self is trying to tell you. Your body is constantly sending you information about your emotional state, your energy levels, your needs, and your limits. But we're trained to override these signals in service of productivity and social expectations. Learning to listen to your body is learning to honor your authentic needs rather than just pushing through. Your emotions are also a form of inner communication. Rather than seeing difficult emotions as problems to be solved or avoided, you can learn to listen to them as information. What is your anxiety trying to tell you about your priorities? What is your sadness revealing about what you value? What is your anger pointing toward that needs to change? Listening to silence. In our noise-filled world, silence has become uncomfortable for many people. We fill every moment with music, podcasts, phone calls, or mental chatter. But silence isn't empty, it's full of information we usually miss. Practice spending time in silence without any agenda. Don't try to meditate or solve problems or be productive. Just be present with the silence and notice what emerges. You might hear sounds you usually miss, become aware of physical sensations, or have insights that arise when your mind isn't busy with input and output. Listening as a gateway to presence. Deep listening, whether to others, yourself, or silence, is fundamentally a practice of presence. It's a way of honoring the moment you're in rather than rushing toward the next moment. It's a recognition that this conversation, this feeling, this silence contains something valuable that can only be received with full attention. The practice of deep listening naturally slows you down because it requires you to stop and receive rather than constantly producing and responding. It's a reminder that not every moment needs to be filled with action or words, and that some of life's most valuable experiences happen in the spaces between our activities. As you develop your capacity for deep listening, you'll find that it transforms not just your relationships, but your entire relationship with life. You'll become more attuned to subtlety, more responsive to what's actually needed in each moment, and more connected to the deeper currents that flow beneath the surface of daily life. Chapter 9. The Art of Single Tasking. Multitasking has become such a dominant feature of modern life that many people wear it as a badge of honor. "I'm great at multitasking," we say, as if the ability to juggle multiple things at once is the key to success in a fast-paced world. But neuroscience research reveals a different truth. The human brain isn't actually capable of multitasking in the way we think it is. What we call multitasking is actually task switching, rapidly shifting attention from one thing to another, and every time you switch tasks, there's a cognitive cost. Your brain needs time to refocus, to remember where you were, and to engage with a new task. This switching cost isn't just a minor inefficiency. It can reduce your cognitive performance by up to 40%. More importantly, for our purposes, constant task switching keeps you in a state of partial attention. You're never fully present to any one thing, which means you're never fully present to your life. You're skimming across the surface of your experiences rather than diving deep into any of them. Single tasking, the practice of focusing on one thing at a time, is revolutionary in our culture precisely because it's become so rare. When you single task, you're not just being more efficient, you're being more alive. You're bringing your full consciousness to bear on whatever you're doing, which transforms the quality of both your experience and your results. The myth of productive multitasking. We often multitask because we believe it makes us more productive, but research consistently shows the opposite. People who multitask take longer to complete tasks and make more mistakes than people who focus on one thing at a time. The feeling of productivity that comes from multitasking is actually an illusion created by the dopamine hits you get from constantly switching tasks. The exception to this rule involves combining automatic behaviors with conscious activities like walking while talking or listening to music while exercising. These aren't true multitasking because one of the activities doesn't require conscious attention. Single tasking as meditation. When you focus completely on one task, you're essentially practicing meditation. You're training your attention to stay present with your chosen focus rather than wandering to other concerns. This develops your overall capacity for concentration and presence. The key is to choose your focus consciously rather than having it pulled in multiple directions by external demands. When you're writing an email, just write the email. When you're having a conversation, just have the conversation. When you're eating, just eat. Practical strategies for single tasking. Close unnecessary browser tabs and applications when working on something that requires focus. Each open tab represents a potential distraction, and even if you don't consciously notice them, they're creating cognitive load. Turn off non-essential notifications. Every ping, buzz, or pop-up is an invitation to break your focus. Most notifications aren't actually urgent, despite how they feel in the moment. Use time blocks for similar activities. Instead of checking email throughout the day, designate specific times for email processing. Instead of making phone calls randomly, batch them together. Practice the one-tab rule when browsing the internet. Only have one browser tab open at a time and close it before opening another one. This simple practice can dramatically improve your ability to focus. Create physical and mental transitions between tasks. Take a few conscious breaths, stand up and stretch, or simply pause to acknowledge the completion of one task before beginning another. The depth of single tasking. When you single task consistently, you begin to discover that every activity has more depth than you realized. Washing dishes becomes an opportunity to practice mindfulness. Writing becomes a form of meditation. Conversations become richer and more meaningful. This isn't about becoming obsessively focused or rigid in your attention. It's about developing the capacity to choose where you place your attention rather than having it scattered by every external demand. Single tasking is also a practice of respect. Respect for the task at hand, respect for the people you're with, and respect for yourself. When you give something your full attention, you're honoring its importance and your capacity to engage deeply with life. The ripple effects. As you develop your single-tasking practice, you'll likely notice effects that extend beyond productivity. Your stress levels may decrease because you're not constantly managing multiple streams of information. Your relationships may improve because people feel more heard and valued when you're fully present with them. Your creativity may increase because deep focus is often where insights emerge. Most importantly, you'll begin to inhabit your life more fully. Instead of feeling like you're constantly running to catch up with yourself, you'll experience the satisfaction of being present to whatever you're doing. This is one of the most direct paths to slowing down, not doing fewer things, but doing whatever you're doing with complete attention. Chapter 10. Creating boundaries in a boundaryless world. One of the greatest challenges to slowing down in our modern world is the erosion of boundaries. Technology has made us available 24/7. Work has expanded to fill all available time, and the line between public and private life has become increasingly blurred. Learning to slow down requires learning to create and maintain healthy boundaries. Boundaries aren't walls that separate you from life. They're semi-permeable membranes that allow good things in while keeping harmful things out. They're the difference between being responsive to life's legitimate demands and being reactive to every stimulus that comes your way. Digital boundaries. Your relationship with technology probably has more impact on your ability to slow down than any other single factor. Digital devices are designed to capture and hold your attention, using the same psychological principles that make gambling addictive. Every notification, every red badge, every "you have new messages" alert is designed to trigger a small dopamine release that keeps you coming back. Creating digital boundaries doesn't mean becoming a Luddite. It means using technology intentionally rather than compulsively. This might involve setting specific times when you check email and messages, rather than responding to them constantly throughout the day. Most communication isn't actually urgent, despite how it feels. Creating phone-free zones in your home, perhaps the bedroom or dining room, where you can engage in activities without digital distraction. Using apps and settings that limit your access to distracting websites and social media during certain hours. The goal isn't to eliminate these platforms entirely, but to use them consciously rather than habitually. Practicing the pause before pickup, habit before reaching for your phone. Pause and ask yourself what you're hoping to accomplish. Often you'll realize you're reaching for it out of habit rather than genuine need. Temporal boundaries. Time is your most precious resource, and creating boundaries around your time is essential for slowing down. This involves both saying no to commitments that don't align with your values and saying yes to activities that nourish your soul. Many people have difficulty with temporal boundaries because they've never clearly defined their priorities. When you don't know what's most important to you, everything feels equally urgent. Spend time identifying your core values and most important relationships. Then use these as criteria for making decisions about how to spend your time. Learn to distinguish between things that are urgent and things that are important. Urgent things demand immediate attention but may not be truly significant. Important things contribute to your long-term well-being and goals, but may not feel pressing in the moment. Effective people prioritize the important over the urgent. Emotional boundaries. In our interconnected world, it's easy to absorb the emotions and energy of others. Social media exposes us to the outrage, anxiety, and drama of millions of people. News media specializes in triggering emotional reactions. Even in our personal relationships, we may take on responsibility for managing other people's emotions. Emotional boundaries involve recognizing that you can be compassionate without absorbing others' emotional states. You can care about someone without taking responsibility for their feelings. You can be informed about world events without becoming overwhelmed by information you can't act upon. This doesn't mean becoming cold or disconnected. It means developing what psychologists call emotional regulation, the ability to remain centered and responsive rather than reactive in the face of intense emotions, whether your own or others. Energy boundaries. Some activities and relationships energize you, while others drain you. Learning to recognize the difference and creating boundaries accordingly is crucial for maintaining the inner resources necessary to slow down. Pay attention to how you feel after different activities and interactions. Which conversations leave you feeling inspired and alive? Which leave you feeling depleted? Which environments support your well-being and which create stress or anxiety? This isn't about avoiding all challenging situations. Growth often requires some discomfort, but it is about ensuring that you have enough energizing experiences to balance the draining ones, and that you're not consistently giving more energy than you're receiving. The boundary paradox. Here's something counterintuitive about boundaries. They don't limit your freedom, they create it. When you have clear boundaries, you can engage more fully with the people and activities within those boundaries because you're not constantly managing overwhelm or resentment. People with poor boundaries often feel like victims of their circumstances, constantly reactive to external demands. People with healthy boundaries feel more in control of their lives and more able to respond thoughtfully to challenges. Communicating boundaries. Setting boundaries is one thing. Communicating them effectively is another. Many people struggle with this aspect because they worry about seeming rude, selfish, or uncaring. But healthy boundaries are actually a gift to the people in your life because they allow you to show up as your best self rather than a stressed, resentful version of yourself. When communicating boundaries, be clear, kind, and consistent. You don't need to over-explain or justify your boundary. Simple statements like, "I don't check email after 7 p.m. or "I need some quiet time to recharge" are sufficient. Remember that other people's reactions to your boundaries are their responsibility, not yours. Some people may push back against your boundaries, especially if they've benefited from your previous lack of boundaries. This doesn't mean your boundaries are wrong. It means they're necessary. Boundaries as self-care. Creating boundaries isn't selfish. It's essential self-care that allows you to be more present and effective in all areas of your life. When you protect your time, energy, and emotional well-being, you have more to offer to the people and causes you care about. Think of boundaries as the foundation that makes everything else possible. Without them, you're constantly in survival mode, reacting to whatever demands the most attention. With them, you can choose how to engage with life from a place of centeredness and intention. Chapter 11. The Wisdom of Natural Rhythms. Our ancestors lived in harmony with natural rhythms, the cycle of day and night, the changing seasons, the ebb and flow of energy throughout the day. Modern life has largely disconnected us from these rhythms, creating artificial environments with constant light, temperature control, and the expectation of consistent productivity regardless of natural cycles. Reconnecting with natural rhythms is one of the most powerful ways to slow down because it aligns your life with forces much larger and more sustainable than your personal will. Instead of trying to force constant productivity, you learn to work with your natural energy patterns. Circadian rhythms. Your body has an internal clock that regulates sleep, hormone production, body temperature, and cognitive function. This circadian rhythm is designed to align with the cycle of day and night, but modern lifestyle factors artificial light, irregular sleep schedules, late-night screen time often disrupt this natural pattern. When your circadian rhythm is aligned, you naturally feel alert during the day and sleepy at night. Your cognitive function peaks at certain times and naturally dips at others. Your body produces hormones at optimal times for healing, growth, and energy regulation. Supporting your circadian rhythm involves simple but powerful practices, exposing yourself to natural light in the morning, avoiding bright screens before bedtime, maintaining consistent sleep and wake times, and eating your largest meals earlier in the day when your digestive system is most active. Ultradian rhythms. Beyond the 24-hour circadian cycle, your body also operates on shorter rhythms throughout the day. These ultradian rhythms typically last 90-120 minutes and involve natural fluctuations in alertness, creativity, and energy. Instead of trying to maintain constant productivity, you can work with these natural rhythms by scheduling demanding tasks during your peak energy periods and using lower energy periods for routine tasks or rest. Most people have 2-3 peak energy periods per day, separated by natural valleys where focus and creativity are diminished. Seasonal rhythms. The changing seasons offer a natural model for different types of activity and rest. Spring is a time of new growth and fresh starts. Summer is a time of full activity and abundance. Fall is a time of harvest and preparation. Winter is a time of rest and inner reflection. In our culture, we often try to maintain summer energy, year-round constant growth, activity, and productivity. But natural systems require periods of dormancy and renewal. Honoring seasonal rhythms might involve taking on fewer commitments in winter, spending more time in nature during spring, embracing social activities in summer, and focusing on completion and gratitude in fall. Weekly rhythms. Even the 7-day week, though artificial, can provide a helpful rhythm for balancing activity and rest. Many spiritual traditions designate 1 day per week as a Sabbath, a time for rest, reflection, and spiritual connection. You don't need to observe a traditional Sabbath to benefit from this principle. Creating 1 day per week that has a different rhythmless productivity, more reflection, more time in nature, or with loved ones can provide a natural reset for your nervous system. Honoring your personal rhythms. Beyond these universal rhythms, you also have personal patterns of energy and creativity. Some people are natural early risers. Others are night owls. Some people work best in short, intense bursts. Others prefer steady, sustained effort. Some people need more social interaction. Others need more solitude. Learning to honor your personal rhythms rather than fighting against them is a form of self-compassion that naturally slows you down. Instead of forcing yourself to work against your natural patterns, you begin to optimize your life around your authentic energy cycles. This might involve scheduling important meetings during your peak cognitive hours, using your low energy periods for routine tasks, taking breaks before you feel exhausted rather than pushing through fatigue, or structuring your week to include the right balance of social interaction and solitude for your temperament. The patience of natural time. Perhaps the most important lesson from natural rhythms is the concept of natural time versus clock time. Natural time is organic, cyclical, and patient. Seeds don't rush to become flowers. They grow at their own pace according to natural laws. Trees don't force themselves to produce fruit out of season. Clock time, by contrast, is linear, urgent, and often arbitrary. It's the time of deadlines, schedules, and productivity metrics. While clock time has its place in organizing human activities, problems arise when it becomes the only time we recognize. Learning to live in natural time doesn't mean abandoning schedules or commitments. It means recognizing that some things can't be hurried, that growth happens in cycles rather than straight lines, and that periods of apparent inactivity are often essential preparation for periods of productivity. When you align with natural rhythms, slowing down doesn't feel like a luxury or an indulgence, it feels like wisdom. You're not fighting against life, you're flowing with it. You're not trying to impose your will on natural processes. You're learning to dance with forces much larger and more intelligent than your personal agenda. Chapter 12. The Practice of Gratitude. In our culture of constant striving and improvement, we often overlook one of the most powerful practices for slowing down: gratitude. Not gratitude as a superficial positive thinking exercise, but gratitude as a fundamental shift in how you relate to your life experience. When you're truly grateful, you naturally slow down, because you're savoring what you already have rather than rushing toward what you think you need. Gratitude is the antidote to the anxiety that comes from focusing on what's missing, what's wrong, or what needs to be different. The neuroscience of gratitude. Research in positive psychology shows that regular gratitude practice literally rewires your brain. When you consistently focus on what you're grateful for, you strengthen neural pathways associated with positive emotions and weaken pathways associated with anxiety and depression. Gratitude activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the same system activated by meditation and deep breathing. It releases dopamine and serotonin, the neurotransmitters associated with happiness and well-being. It also reduces cortisol, the stress hormone that keeps your nervous system in a state of chronic activation. But, perhaps most importantly for our purposes, gratitude shifts your attention from what's lacking to what's present. This is fundamentally a slowing down practice because it anchors you in the current moment rather than propelling you towards some future state of satisfaction, beyond simple appreciation. True gratitude goes deeper than simply appreciating pleasant experiences. It involves finding meaning and value even in difficult circumstances, not by pretending they're not difficult, but by recognizing how they've contributed to your growth, resilience, or understanding. This doesn't mean being grateful for trauma or injustice. It means recognizing that even in challenging situations, there are often elements worth acknowledging. The strength you discovered you had, the support you received from others, the clarity that came from facing difficult truths. Gratitude as presence practice. When you're truly grateful for something, you're fully present with it. Think about a time when you felt overwhelmed with appreciation, perhaps watching a sunset, holding a newborn, or receiving unexpected kindness from a stranger. In those moments, you weren't thinking about your to-do list or worrying about the future. You were completely here, completely present. This is why gratitude is such a powerful antidote to the anxiety and rushing that characterize modern life. Anxiety lives in projections about the future. Gratitude lives in appreciation of the present. Practical gratitude practices. Morning gratitude. Before getting out of bed, identify 3 things you're grateful for. These can be simply comfortable bed, the ability to see, the fact that you have another day to experience life. Starting your day with gratitude sets a tone of appreciation rather than anxiety. Gratitude journaling. Write down 5 things you're grateful for each day, but focus on specificity rather than generic statements. Instead of, "I'm grateful for my family," write, "I'm grateful for the way my daughter laughed at dinner tonight," or, "I'm grateful for my partner's patience when I was stressed today." Gratitude letters. Periodically write letters to people who have had a positive impact on your life, expressing specifically what they did and how it affected you. You don't have to send these letters, though you can, but the act of writing them deepens your appreciation. Difficulty gratitude. This advanced practice involves finding something to appreciate even in challenging situations. What did this difficulty teach you? How did it reveal your strength or the support of others? What clarity did it provide about what's truly important? Sensory gratitude. Use your senses as gateways to gratitude. What can you see right now that's beautiful or interesting? What sounds are pleasant or meaningful? What physical sensations feel good? This practice anchors gratitude in immediate, present moment experience. The gratitude paradox. Here's something counterintuitive about gratitude. The more grateful you become for what you have, the more you seem to receive. This isn't magical thinking, it's psychology. When you're appreciative of what you have, you take better care of it. When you're grateful for relationships, you invest more in them. When you're grateful for opportunities, you're more likely to recognize and act on new ones. Grateful people also tend to be more generous, which creates positive feedback loops in their relationships and communities. They're more resilient in the face of challenges because they've developed the habit of finding meaning and value even in difficult circumstances. Gratitude as activism. In a culture that profits from your dissatisfaction, that constantly tells you what you need to buy, achieve, or become to be happy, gratitude is actually a form of quiet activism. It's a refusal to participate in the endless cycle of wanting and striving that keeps you on the hamster wheel of constant acceleration. This doesn't mean becoming complacent or giving up on positive change. You can be grateful for what you have while still working toward what you believe in. But your actions come from a place of abundance and appreciation rather than scarcity and anxiety. The depth of simple things. As you develop your gratitude practice, you'll likely find yourself appreciating things you previously took for granted. The taste of water when you're thirsty, the feeling of clean sheets, the fact that your body knows how to breathe without your conscious control. This isn't about lowering your standards or settling for less. It's about recognizing the extraordinary nature of ordinary life. When you can find wonder in simple experiences, you don't need constant novelty or stimulation to feel satisfied. This naturally slows you down because you're savoring what's already present, rather than constantly seeking what's next. Chapter 13: Integration and Daily Practice. Learning to slow down isn't about mastering a single technique or having a dramatic life transformation. It's about integrating small, consistent practices into your daily life that gradually shift your default mode from reactivity to responsiveness, from rushing to presence, from anxiety to calm alertness. The key word is integration. These practices need to become part of your life rather than additional tasks on your to-do list. They need to feel natural and sustainable rather than forced or burdensome. Starting small. The biggest mistake people make when trying to change their lifestyle is attempting too much too quickly. They decide to meditate for an hour a day, completely overhaul their morning routine, and eliminate all sources of stress simultaneously. This approach almost always leads to overwhelm and abandonment of the practices. Instead, start with one small practice and do it consistently for at least 2 weeks before adding anything else. Maybe it's 5 minutes of morning meditation. Maybe it's taking 3 conscious breaths before checking your phone. Maybe it's eating 1 meal per day without distraction. The goal isn't to perfect these practices immediately. It's to establish the neural pathways that make them feel natural. Small, consistent actions create much more lasting change than sporadic grand gestures. The compound effect. Just as financial investments compound over time, these practices have a compound effect on your well-being. 5 minutes of daily meditation might not seem significant, but over months and years, it creates fundamental changes in your brain structure and stress response. Similarly, taking a few conscious breaths before responding to emails might seem trivial, but it can gradually shift your entire relationship with work from reactive to responsive. Walking meetings instead of sitting in conference rooms might seem like a small change, but it can improve both your physical health and cognitive function. Keystone habits. Some habits are more powerful than others because they naturally lead to other positive changes. These are called keystone habits. For many people, meditation is a keystone habit because it increases self-awareness, which leads to better choices in other areas of life. Morning rituals are often keystone habits because they set the tone for the entire day. Regular exercise can be a keystone habit because it improves mood, energy, and sleep quality. Identify which practices feel most natural and impactful for you, and focus on establishing those first. Personalizing your practice. The practices outlined in this audiobook are suggestions, not prescriptions. What works for one person may not work for another, and what works for you at one stage of life may need to be adapted as your circumstances change. Pay attention to what resonates with you and what feels forced. If sitting meditation feels difficult, try walking meditation. If morning rituals don't fit your schedule, experiment with evening rituals. If journaling feels tedious, try voice recordings or artistic expression. The goal is to find sustainable ways to cultivate presence, calm, and intentionality in your life. The specific techniques matter less than your consistency and genuine engagement with the practices. Dealing with resistance. As you begin to slow down, you'll likely encounter internal resistance. Part of you may feel guilty for not being productive or anxious about falling behind. This resistance is normal and actually a sign that you're challenging deeply ingrained patterns. Recognize that this resistance often comes from conditioning rather than wisdom. You've been taught that your worth depends on your productivity, that busy equals important, and that slowing down is lazy or self-indulgent. These beliefs aren't serving your well-being or your effectiveness. When you encounter resistance, practice curiosity rather than judgment. What is this resistance trying to protect you from? What fears or beliefs are underlying it? Often, Simply acknowledging resistance with compassion can reduce its power over you. Creating environmental support. Your environment has a huge impact on your ability to maintain these practices. If your phone is always within reach, you're more likely to check it compulsively. If your living space is cluttered and chaotic, it's harder to feel calm and centered. Consider how you can modify your environment to support slowing down. This might involve creating a designated meditation space, removing apps from your phone that trigger compulsive use, organizing your living space to feel more peaceful, or surrounding yourself with reminders of what's truly important to you. Building community. Slowing down can feel challenging in a culture that celebrates speed and busyness. Having support from others who share similar values can make a significant difference in maintaining your practices. This might involve joining a meditation group, finding friends who enjoy slower-paced activities like walking or deep conversation, or simply talking with family members about your intention to live more mindfully. You don't need to convince others to change their lifestyle, but having support for your choices can be invaluable. Measuring progress. Progress in slowing down isn't always linear or obvious. You might not notice daily changes, but over time you may realize that you're less reactive to stress, more present in your relationships, or more satisfied with simple experiences. Pay attention to subtle indicators. Do you reach for your phone less compulsively? Do you feel more patient in traffic or in line at the store? Do you notice beauty or interesting details you previously missed? Do you feel more connected to your authentic desires and values? The long view. Learning to slow down is not a destination but a lifelong practice. There will be periods when you maintain your practices consistently and periods when life circumstances make them more challenging. This is normal and doesn't represent failure. The goal isn't to achieve some perfect state of constant calm and presence. It's to develop the skills and awareness that allow you to return to centeredness more quickly when you get pulled into reactivity and rushing. Over time, these practices become less like things you do and more like who you are. Slowing down becomes not just a set of techniques, but a way of being in the world more responsive than reactive, more intentional than impulsive, more present than distracted. Conclusion. The ripple effects of slowing down. As we reach the end of our exploration into the art of slowing down, it's important to recognize that this practice extends far beyond personal benefits. When you learn to live with greater presence, intention, and calm, you create ripple effects that touch every person you encounter and every environment you inhabit. Personal transformation. The most immediate effects of slowing down are personal. You'll likely find that you have more energy because you're not constantly fighting against yourself and your natural rhythms. You'll make better decisions because you're responding from clarity rather than reacting from stress. You'll enjoy your experiences more fully because you're present to them rather than mentally elsewhere. Your relationships will likely improve as well. When you're truly present with others, they feel seen and valued in a way that creates deeper connection. When you're not constantly rushing, you have space for the spontaneous moments that often become the most meaningful memories. Perhaps most importantly, you'll develop a different relationship with time itself. Instead of feeling like time is something that's always running out, you'll begin to experience time as spacious and abundant. This shift in perception is one of the most profound benefits of slowing down. Impact on others. Your presence affects everyone around you, often in ways you don't realize. When you're calm and centered, you give others permission to slow down as well. When you're fully present in conversations, you create space for others to share more authentically. When you move through the world with intention rather than urgency, you become a reminder that there's another way to live. Children are particularly sensitive to the energy of the adults around them. When you model a slower, more intentional way of being, you're teaching them that their worth isn't dependent on constant achievement and that there's value in simply being present to life. Professional benefits. Contrary to cultural messages about speed and productivity, slowing down often makes you more effective professionally. When you're present and focused, you make fewer mistakes, have better insights, and communicate more clearly. When you take time to reflect before acting, you often discover more elegant solutions to problems. Leaders who embody calm presence create more trust and inspire better performance from their teams. Colleagues who listen deeply and speak thoughtfully contribute more value to discussions. Employees who work sustainably rather than frantically tend to have longer, more successful careers. Cultural contribution. Every person who chooses to slow down is contributing to a cultural shift away from the unsustainable pace that characterizes much of modern life. You're demonstrating that it's possible to be effective without being constantly busy, successful without being stressed, and engaged without being overwhelmed. This cultural contribution is particularly important because the current pace of life isn't just personally unsustainable, it's collectively unsustainable. The constant acceleration of modern life contributes to environmental degradation, social fragmentation, and widespread mental health challenges. Environmental awareness. Slowing down often leads to greater environmental consciousness. When you're present and aware, you naturally notice the natural world in ways you miss when you're rushing through life. You become more aware of your consumption patterns, more appreciative of natural beauty, and more motivated to protect the environment for future generations. Many people find that as they slow down, they're drawn to spend more time in nature, which further reinforces their commitment to environmental stewardship. The same presence that helps you appreciate a sunset or feel gratitude for clean air often translates into action to protect these gifts. The courage to be different. Living slowly in a fast-paced world requires courage. It means being willing to disappoint people who expect immediate responses to their messages. It means saying no to opportunities that don't align with your values, even when they seem impressive. It means trusting that your well-being is more important than others' opinions of your productivity. This courage is itself a gift to the world. Every person who chooses well-being over busyness, presence over productivity, and authenticity over achievement makes it easier for others to make similar choices. You become part of a quiet revolution toward a more sustainable and satisfying way of life. The paradox of effort. As you develop your practice of slowing down, you may notice an interesting paradox. The more you try to slow down, the more elusive it becomes. Slowing down isn't something you achieve through force or willpower, it's something you allow through surrender and acceptance. This is why the practices in this audiobook aren't about controlling your experience, but about creating conditions that naturally support presence and calm. You can't force yourself to be present, but you can remove obstacles to presence. You can't will yourself to be calm, but you can engage in activities that activate your body's natural relaxation response. Living the questions. One of the most important aspects of slowing down is developing comfort with uncertainty and ambiguity. In our fast-paced world, we're often pressured to have immediate answers, quick solutions, and clear plans. But many of life's most important questions don't have simple answers, and some problems are better lived with than solved. Learning to slow down means learning to live with questions rather than rushing toward answers. It means trusting that clarity will emerge in its own time, and that forcing premature closure often prevents deeper understanding from developing. The invitation. As you close this audiobook and return to your daily life, remember that slowing down isn't another item to add to your to-do list. It's an invitation to a different way of being in the world that honors your authentic needs, respects your natural rhythms, and allows you to fully receive the gifts that each moment offers. This invitation is always available to you. In any moment, you can take a conscious breath, notice what's happening around you, or simply pause before responding to whatever demands your attention. These small moments of presence are seeds that, over time, can transform not only your life, but the lives of everyone you touch. The world needs people who are present, calm, and responsive rather than reactive. It needs people who can see clearly rather than being overwhelmed by information and stimulation. It needs people who can act from wisdom rather than fear, from love rather than anxiety. You have the opportunity to be one of these people, not through dramatic gestures or perfect practice, but through small, consistent choices to slow down, be present, and respond to life from your deepest wisdom rather than your surface anxiety. The art of slowing down is ultimately the art of being fully alive. It's the practice of showing up for your one precious life with complete attention and genuine appreciation. In a world that seems to be accelerating beyond human capacity, this might be the most radical and necessary practice of all. Take a breath. Notice where you are. Remember that this moment right now is your life, and you have the power to be fully present for it. The world is waiting for what you have to offer when you're not rushing toward the next thing but fully here for this thing. Welcome to the art of slowing down. Your practice begins now. About this practice? The journey of learning to slow down is deeply personal and uniquely yours. The practices, insights, and perspectives offered in this audiobook are invitations rather than prescriptions. Take what serves you, adapt what needs adapting, and trust your own experience as the ultimate guide. Remember that this is a practice, not a performance. There are no perfect practitioners of slowing down, only committed practitioners. Be patient with yourself as you develop these skills, and remember that every moment offers a fresh opportunity to begin again. May you find in slowing down not an escape from life, but a deeper engagement with it. May you discover that presence is always available, peace is your natural state, and the life you're looking for is the one you're already living. The invitation is always here. Slow down, be present, trust the wisdom of this moment. Your practice begins now.